There's a quiet change that often begins after 50. You're reading a message on your phone, a menu at a restaurant, or the label on a medicine bottle, and the words don't look as clear as they used before. You add more light, you blink, you pull it farther away, and for a brief moment, a thought passes through your mind. Is this how vision loss starts? For many older adults, this isn't sudden and it isn't dramatic. It's subtle, and that's exactly why it's so easy to ignore. But what most people don't realize is that these small visual changes are often early signals of biological shifts happening deep inside the eye, long before any diagnosis is made. My name is Dr. Nelson, and for years I've worked with adults over 50 to help them understand what's really happening in their bodies as they age. When it comes to eyesight, I've seen one common pattern again and again. Vision doesn't decline simply because of age. It declines when the eye no longer gets what it needs to repair and protect itself. Today, I want to explain how a few simple science-backed foods, specifically 3 small seeds, can support your eyes naturally by working with your body's own repair systems. To understand why they matter, we first need to look at what actually changes inside the eye as we get older. Stay with me, because the first shift most people miss is the one that quietly sets vision decline in motion. 1. The first quiet shift inside aging eyes. After the age of 60, many people living in the United States begin to notice small visual changes that are easy to dismiss. You may still drive, still read, still manage your daily routine, yet something feels subtly different. Words seem less sharp in dim light. Your eyes tire faster in the evening. Night driving becomes uncomfortable even on familiar roads. For many older adults, these moments trigger a quiet fear that rarely gets spoken out loud. What if this is the beginning of losing my independence? Medically, this stage is not a disease, it is a physiological transition. Inside the eye, especially in the retina, cells that once repaired themselves efficiently begin to slow down. Blood flow becomes less flexible, inflammation rises more easily, and the retina's demand for nutrients increases at the same time its ability to absorb them declines. This change often begins years before any diagnosis, which is why routine eye exams may still appear normal. This shift tends to show up during specific situations. You may notice it most when reading restaurant menus under soft lighting, driving at dusk, or switching focus between near and far objects. It often feels inconsistent, which leads many people to assume it is harmless. But inconsistency is exactly what makes this stage dangerous, because it delays attention until damage has quietly accumulated. The deeper concern for many adults over 60 is not just blurred vision. It is the fear of becoming dependent, the fear of giving up driving, the fear of not recognizing faces clearly. When these changes are misunderstood as just aging, people often do nothing, allowing inflammation and cellular stress to continue unchecked. From a health perspective, ignoring this phase means missing a critical window. This is the period when supportive actions still matter most. The eye has not failed, but it is struggling. What it needs now is reduced inflammatory stress and better nutritional support to maintain its structure. Understanding this first shift changes everything. It reframes vision changes not as an ending, but as a signal. And once you understand the signal, the next question becomes clear. What specific support does the retina need to stay strong as we age? 2. Why nutrition becomes the missing link after 60. Once you understand that early vision changes are a signal rather than a failure, the next question naturally follows. Why does the eye struggle to keep up as we get older? For adults over 60, especially those living active lives in the U.S., the answer often lies in a quiet mismatch between what the eyes need and what the body is actually receiving. At this stage of life, many people feel they are eating fine. Meals are familiar, routines are set, and weight may even be stable. But biologically, the eyes are no longer operating with the same margin of safety they once had. The retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body. It requires a constant supply of specific fats, minerals, and antioxidants just to maintain itself. With age, absorption of these nutrients becomes less efficient even when calorie intake stays the same. This gap becomes most noticeable during periods of stress on the visual system. Long hours under indoor lighting, extended screen use, driving at night, or managing conditions like elevated blood sugar all increase demand on retinal cells. When nutritional support is insufficient, inflammation builds quietly, cell membranes weaken, and the eye becomes more vulnerable to damage that does not cause pain but slowly reduces clarity. The fear many older adults carry is not simply that vision will worsen, but that they will be told it is out of their control. That once decline begins, nothing meaningful can be done. This belief often leads to inaction, and inaction has consequences. Without proper nutritional support, small functional changes can progress into structural damage that is far harder to slow later on. From a medical standpoint, this is a critical misunderstanding. Nutrition does not cure eye disease, but it strongly influences how resilient eye tissue remains over time. This is especially important before significant pathology appears. The goal at this stage is not treatment, but support. Supporting blood flow, reducing inflammatory stress, and maintaining the physical integrity of retinal cells. For the viewer watching this now, the most important action is awareness. Recognizing that vision health after 60 is no longer passive. It requires intentional support, not drastic changes, but specific ones. And this leads directly to the next step, because once you know why the eye struggles, the question becomes unavoidable. What exact nutrients does the retina rely on most to protect itself as we age? 3. Flax seeds and the structural support aging eyes quietly depend on. After learning that the aging eye struggles because it is no longer receiving the specific support it needs, many adults over 60 begin to worry that the damage is already done. This fear is especially strong for those who have lived with high blood sugar, high cholesterol, or years of inflammation. There is often a silent question beneath the surface. Did I miss my chance to protect my eyesight? Medically, this is where understanding structure becomes important. The retina is not just a light-sensing surface. It is living tissue built from delicate cell membranes that must remain flexible to function. Those membranes are made largely of specialized fats, and one of the most important is omega-3. As we age, and particularly in people with metabolic stress, the retina's omega-3 content declines. When that happens, cells become more rigid, less resilient, and more vulnerable to damage from inflammation and poor circulation. This change tends to show itself during everyday moments. Straight lines may not look as crisp. Reading feels more tiring than it used to. Vision may fluctuate from day to day, creating anxiety because it feels unpredictable. Many older adults fear these signs mean something serious is developing, yet they hesitate to act because they are unsure what truly helps and what is just noise. Flax seeds matter here because they provide alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that the body can convert into the forms the retina actually uses. This process does not happen overnight, and it does not repair advanced disease, but it does support the basic structure of retinal cells when decline is still subtle. When people misunderstand this and consume flax seeds incorrectly, such as eating them whole, the benefit is often lost, reinforcing the belief that nutrition doesn't work. The consequence of doing nothing during this phase is not immediate blindness, but gradual weakening. Inflammation continues, microcirculation becomes less efficient, and the retina loses the materials it needs to maintain itself. Over time, this makes later interventions far less effective. For someone watching this now, the action is not drastic. It is deliberate. Understanding that flax seeds must be ground, used consistently, and seen as structural support rather than a quick fix changes expectations and outcomes. This is about giving aging eyes the raw materials they quietly depend on. And once the structure is supported, another question naturally follows, because strength alone is not enough. How do we protect those same retinal cells from the daily damage that continues every time light enters the eye? 4. Chia seeds and the hidden damage that ages eyes faster than time. Once the structure of the retina begins to weaken, many adults over 60 assume that adding support is enough. But this is where another, quieter problem often goes unnoticed. Even when the eye has the materials it needs to stay intact, it is still under constant attack. Light exposure, screen use, indoor lighting, stress, and metabolic strain all create microscopic damage every single day. For older adults, the fear is not always sudden vision loss, but the feeling that their eyes simply cannot tolerate daily life the way they used to. This stage often shows up in very specific situations. Eyes begin to burn or water by late afternoon. Reading under artificial light feels exhausting. Sensitivity to glare increases, especially while driving at night. Many people are told their eyes look fine, which creates frustration and self-doubt. They begin to wonder if the discomfort is something they just have to accept as part of aging. From a medical perspective, this discomfort is often driven by oxidative stress. Inside aging eye cells, unstable molecules build up and damage proteins, DNA, and cell membranes. This process does not cause pain in the traditional sense, but it slowly reduces the eye's tolerance to light and visual demand. Over time, it accelerates fatigue and contributes to long-term decline. Chia seeds become relevant here because they address defense rather than structure. They are rich in antioxidants that help neutralize these damaging molecules before they accumulate. For older adults, especially those who spend time reading, watching television, or using digital devices, this protective role becomes increasingly important. Chia seeds also provide zinc, a mineral essential for transporting vitamin A to the retina, where it supports low light and night vision. When zinc levels are low, many people notice difficulty seeing clearly at dusk, a change that quietly raises anxiety about driving and independence. The mistake many people make is assuming that eye fatigue is harmless. When oxidative stress is ignored, inflammation persists and cellular damage continues unchecked. Over time, what began as discomfort can evolve into functional loss that is harder to reverse or slow. For someone watching this now, the action is practical, not extreme. Understanding that chia seeds work best when soaked and used consistently helps set realistic expectations. This is not about instant relief, but about reducing the daily damage that quietly adds up over years. And once daily damage is better controlled, there is one final concern that often weighs heaviest on aging minds. How do we protect the central vision that allows us to recognize faces, read clearly, and stay independent as we grow older? 5. Pumpkin seeds and protecting the vision that preserves independence. After addressing structure and daily damage, many adults over 60 find that a deeper fear still remains. It is not just about blurry vision or tired eyes. It is the fear of losing the ability to recognize faces clearly, to read comfortably, or to drive with confidence. For older adults in the United States, this fear often centers on one small but critical part of the eye, the macula. The macula is responsible for sharp central vision. It allows you to see fine detail, judge distance, and focus on what matters most in front of you. As we age, the macula becomes increasingly vulnerable to oxidative stress and light-related damage. This vulnerability often shows up quietly. Colors may seem less vibrant. Small print feels harder to focus on. Faces are recognizable, but not as crisp as they once were. These changes are subtle, yet emotionally heavy, because they threaten independence rather than comfort. This concern becomes especially present during certain situations. Driving at night feels more stressful. Reading for pleasure takes more effort. Watching grandchildren play from a distance feels different, even if it's hard to explain why. Many older adults worry that these moments are early signs of something irreversible, such as macular degeneration, and that nothing meaningful can be done. Medically, this is where protection matters most. While advanced macular disease cannot be reversed, the early stages are highly influenced by lifestyle and nutrition. Pumpkin seeds are important here because they contain lutein and zeaxanthin, two nutrients that naturally concentrate in the macula. These compounds act as internal filters, reducing harmful light exposure and lowering oxidative stress in the very cells responsible for central vision. Pumpkin seeds also provide vitamin E, which protects cell membranes, and magnesium, which supports healthy blood flow. Together, these nutrients help the macula remain resilient rather than fragile. The mistake many people make is assuming that if decline is started, prevention no longer matters. In reality, misunderstanding this stage can lead to passive acceptance, allowing damage to progress faster than necessary. For someone watching this now, the action is grounded and realistic. Incorporating a small, consistent amount of pumpkin seeds into meals or snacks is not about curing disease. It is about slowing vulnerability and supporting the part of vision most closely tied to independence and quality of life. When structure is supported, daily damage is reduced, and central vision is protected, a larger picture begins to emerge. The question is no longer whether aging eyes will change, but how intentionally we respond to those changes. And that understanding brings us naturally to the final message, where everything we've discussed comes together. 6. Conclusion: protecting vision by understanding the body's quiet signals. As we grow older, the body rarely sends loud warnings. Instead, it speaks softly. Vision changes begin not with sudden loss, but with small adjustments. More light needed, slower focus, subtle fatigue. These moments reflect a deeper truth many older adults sense but rarely articulate. The body becomes more fragile with age, and what once recovered effortlessly now requires understanding and intention. Throughout this discussion, one message stands out. Aging eyes are not failing without reason. They are responding to years of cumulative stress, reduced repair capacity, and unmet biological needs. During sleep, when the body should restore and rebalance itself, inflammation, oxidative stress, and poor circulation can quietly continue if the system lacks proper support. Over time, this nightly strain compounds, shaping how vision feels and functions during the day. The goal is not to fear these changes, nor to chase quick solutions. It is to recognize that understanding comes before protection. When we understand what is happening inside the eye, why structure weakens, why daily damage accumulates, and why central vision becomes vulnerable, we regain a sense of control. Adjustment then becomes possible, not through extreme measures, but through informed, consistent choices. Looking ahead 1 to 5 years, the path forward depends largely on awareness and action taken today. For those who choose to ignore early signals, small functional changes may gradually narrow independence and confidence. For those who learn to support their bodies intentionally, the future often looks different. Vision may still age, but it does so more slowly, with greater resilience and fewer surprises. This is especially important for older adults who value independence, clear thinking, and quality of life. Protecting eyesight is not just about seeing clearly. It is about staying engaged with the world, maintaining routines, and preserving the ability to make choices freely. Aging does not mean surrendering control. It means shifting from passive expectation to active understanding. When we listen to the body's quiet signals and respond thoughtfully, we give ourselves the best chance to move forward with clarity, confidence, and dignity.